Hi, almost ready. Hi, I'm Milena, booktuber, bookstore owner, classics lover. These are my bookshelves. I don't know, can you see? All of them? Almost. They are 3 billies and one that's not a billy, but that was free somewhere. And I have 2 shelves. I do have 3 more shelves downstairs, so if you have a few books from there as well. But what I want to do today is show you my own TBR. Thank you so much for your feedback. You picked own TBR for bookshelf tour, which means less work for me. So we'll just go over the shelves and I'll show you the book that I still want to read. A little bit about me as a book collector. I am a collector and I think because classics is my main theme of interest, there are a lot of at some point books on here. So I'm not the kind of reader who has somewhere between 20 and 50 books that are on my own TBR that I want to read in the coming month or in the coming year. I have a few classics that I'm interested in, but that I maybe feel I'm not quite there yet, because I feel with my classics journey, I want to be gentle. I will give you a little hint of a book that is a not quite there yet book. Ulysses by James Joyce. This is gonna be read at some point in my lifetime, but not in the coming 2 or 3 years. So let's start with the shelves. So I guess without meaning to, this is a little bit of a bookshelf tour. So this is kind of my Jane Austen shrine. The newest Jane Austen-esque kind of book is this one on my own TBR. This is Jane Austen's bookshelf by Rebecca Romney, the women writers who shaped the legend. So this is about the women writers that Jane Austen read. This came out last year and I got some people excited through the shop for this, which makes me really happy. Not read it myself yet because I'm still working my way through the women's prize, but I will very, very soon. Of all these ones, I've read at least the Jane Austen ones. Wait, that's not true. I have one unread. The Phantom of the Opera. So why have I not read this yet? Because this is not a at some point kind of book. The Phantom of the Opera I've not read because I read it in the first chapter challenge and I really didn't like the first chapter. I need to hype myself up for this. Maybe watch a musical version and get really excited about it and just go ahead and read it. I have friends who love this. Those were just 2 books. Let's look at this shelf. My little Toni Morrison shrine, because of course, right now I've read Toni Morrison's major works, which makes me so happy, but I still have yet to read for nonfiction. So this is The Source of Self-Regard, selected essays, speeches and meditations. I don't know why I've not read this. I think I have quite a lot of nonfiction that we're going to go through today, and I just don't get through nonfiction fast. I don't think anyone does. If you go through nonfiction fast, teach me your ways. Let's see. I do have a few Toni Morrison that are not read yet. 2 exactly on my own TBR. So we have Home, which I think Toni Morrison wrote in one of her writing slumps, is what people call it. So it's not one of her best ones. And I think Love might be the same story. I know Home is about a man who comes back from the Korean War. Ooh, and I think Love is about a group of women who are all in love with the same man, which if it wasn't written by Toni Morrison, I toss out the window. I am not cleaning as we go, by the way. That's gonna make this video last at least an hour. So, okay, historical fiction. One that I have not read yet, but I've heard very mixed reviews about, so I'm a bit scared. But that is The Bookbinder of Jericho by Pip Williams. I have read, I don't think it's the previous book in the series, but the previous book in the world, which I really enjoyed. So I will read this at some point, but I'm a little bit scared because people say that it has bad disability rap, which I find very upsetting. So I don't know about this one, guys. The Beholders I got very recently in a blind date with a book by Hester Mousson. This is historical mystery, a bit gothic, I believe. So I'm very excited for this. This is gonna be one of those books I will read soon. I could make one of those TBRs right now. Right, so books I want to read very soon. I'm gonna toss on my sofa and then we have a little list at the end of this. Right. 1. Another blind date with a book, Argyle. I actually don't think I'll read this, but I got it in a blind date with a book. So I'll keep it if it ever works for a prompt for anything. Otherwise I'll give it to someone who really wants it. All right, let's lower you down because you cannot see. Yes, we have a lot of books I want to read soon. Ariadne, I think I've not read this. Lost a little bit of interest for that one. The Language of Food. On how many TBRs has this been? I don't want to talk about it, but it's going on the sofa. Another one that needs to go on the sofa is Briefly A Delicious Life by Nell Stevens. Nell Stevens wrote one of my favorite books last year. On the sofa. Hoppakee. Hoppakee, that's Dutch. Word of the day. Another Dutch book. I tried this. It's about chronic fatigue. Not a read for me right now, but I'll keep it because I want to support the author. Chocolate by Joanne Harris, which is one of Mary's favorite books, so it's going on the sofa. Okay, I've been wanting to read this for a long time, but I never seem to get to it. The Confessions of Franny Langton by Sarah Collins. Did you enjoy it? Should I read this? I don't know. I'm gonna put it back on the shelf for now. The Scapegoat by Daphne du Maurier. You know what? Gonna put it back on the shelf for now. Okay, down here are children's books. That's all but Moomin Land in mid-November I've read. But this one is definitely gonna be read in November. So I'm putting this back on the shelf. Alright, I'm tall. I think I'm almost 6 feet tall. I don't know what it is in feet, but I'm tall. But I cannot reach my top shelves. I got the extensions from IKEA, which have been lifesavers. But it does mean we're gonna have to talk like this. Alright, oh gosh. Aurora Lee by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. An At Some Point book, for sure. The Longest Journey by E.M. Forster. On the sofa. It's been too long since I've read an E.M. Forster. This is also more a book I want to have as a resource than more to read. Tales from Shakespeare by Charles Lamb. Editions, I'm not sure. It's more of collector's editions, I feel like. Memento Mori by Royal Spark. Quartet by Jean Rhys. Sugar and Other Stories by A.S. Byatt. Lolly Willows by Sylvia Townsend Warner. I really want to read this, but it's not going on the sofa. I think because I need to be like careful how many classics I put on there. And The Imitation of the Rose by Clarice Lispector. I have another Lispector I want to read first. So these are also going back on the shelf. Have to say, don't love trying to reach these top shelves. Up here is my Bronte shelf. So that's all read. Yes, this is my Virginia Woolf shelf, which does have some unread books. Let's see. Between the Acts, which is absolutely going on the sofa for sure. Flush, which is a biography of a dog, which I think it was a joke by Virginia Woolf. I don't know. It's still going back on the shelves for when I'm in a mood for it. I have something very lovely that Mary and Lucy got me in London with. It's a prized possession. This is a collection of essays by Virginia Woolf, and it has a note from Lucy and Mary. They met in London a few years back, and they sent me this because they went book shopping and found this for me. Very special, and I'm not gonna toss this one anywhere. This is staying right where it belongs. Right, and then I do have much more unread down here. So let's start with my most recent purchase because I got influential. The Hunger Games. Yes, I've not read The Hunger Games. I've seen the films multiple times, loved them. I also kind of liked the newest one, didn't love it, but liked it. And I'm planning to treat myself to reading all of these in the summer. I mean, there's a very, very tiny chance I won't like the first one and then I'll regret buying this. But let's just assume I will enjoy them all. I'm not tossing it on the sofa, but I metaphorically will. Another example of an at some point kind of book. Les Mis by Victor Hugo. We're not gonna talk about it. Midnight Children by Salman Rushdie. And at some point kind of book. All Passion Spent by Vita Saxel West. On the sofa. Yes, I'm throwing my books, but I'm careful. The sofa is very soft. Claudine at School by Colette, but I think this is book 2. So I should get book 1 first. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Cannot be bothered, to be honest. The Wedding by Dorothy West. This is actually on my Readalong TBR, so I'll keep it here so that I know where it is. This one I got as a gift from a lovely subscriber. A Glass of Blessings by Barbara Pym. Don't know what this is, but I love the cover. Ooh, another blind date with book. Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Susan. New Grub Street by George Gissing. Victober book for sure. This is a collection which I'm not gonna put at once on my TBR, but read from whenever I feel like it. This is Ghost Stories by Edith Wharton. I forgot I have a little shelf up there and there were 2 unread books on that little shelf. Ithaca by Claire North. This is a Greek myth retelling, which you can very clearly see on the cover. And then a book that's definitely going on the sofa. Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I don't know how I kept not reading this, but it's everyone's favorite historical fiction. So it's going on the sofa. These are shelves that you've probably never seen up here because you can never see it when I film. But these are my fantasy shelves. I'm not a big fantasy reader, but I can be persuaded. So let's see. Some Tolkien. Of course I have some Tolkien. I did not finish the trilogy. I still have The Return of the King to read. And it's been like 2 years since I read The Two Towers. I know. The Children of Hurin, the Dutch edition, which I found at a charity shop. Like, wow. The Fall of Numenor. Boy, got me this beautiful edition of The Silmarillion, which I will read at some point. Again, we're going to metaphorically put book 3 of The Lord of the Rings on the sofa. But I'll keep it there because it looks so cute together. The Ladies and Grace Adieu by Susanna Clarke, who is an author I really enjoy. These are short stories. The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. I'm saving this when I have a chunky fantasy craving, which hasn't happened since I bought it. In the Shadow of the Wolf Queen by Kieran Millwood Hargrave, who is one of my favorite historical fiction authors, so I will read their fantasy at some point. Kakei, which is an Indian myth retelling, and The Firekeeper's Daughter. I think I bought one I didn't really know what kind of fantasy I want to read, but this is YA, and I'm just not a YA reader, so I don't know what I'll do with this. I want to put Kakei on the sofa, actually. Let's just do this one, and then we will get to the classics. I love the fact that I have a space in my house where I can put just my books and my desk and a little sofa for me to read, but this room is incredibly narrow, so my desk is actually in front of these doors, so I cannot open both of them. This one can only open so far, so we'll have to make do. I have some Funkos, which this is not a bookshelf tour, but still. We have Little Belle and The Queen from Bridgerton. A book that I got at a friend's bookshop. This is The Cornish Midwife, which I guess will be lovely to read this summer. Alright, on the sofa. This one is going on the sofa for sure, because I'm so excited for it. This is At First Bite by Olivia Dade. Olivia Dade is my new favorite romance author now that Emily Henry has disappointed me twice. We're making the switch, guys. Demon's Guide to Wooing a Witch. Read a chapter of this. Didn't love it. Same with Lovelight Farm by B.K. Morrison. Just couldn't get along with the writing. The first book in the new trilogy by India Holton. This is The Ornithologist Field Guide to Love, which I'm not quite going to put on the sofa because I've not been in the mood for romantasy at all. This is where I keep my litfic. The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khalid Hosseini. I'm not really interested in this author anymore, if I'm being honest, but my friends say that I do need to read this, so I guess it'll happen at some point in time. Nightbloom, which was on the Women's Prize longlist last year. If I didn't have still so much to read of the Women's Prize longlist or so much litfic on my direct TBR, I would put this on the sofa. The Seven Moons of Mali Almeida. I think this was, yes, for the Booker Prize 2022. It won 15 Wild Decembers by Karen Powell. Again, I'm gonna save this for the winter. I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This is going on my Buzzwordathon TBR, so I'm keeping it on the shelf so I can easily find it. Eileen by Utesha Mosfeg. Can you see that I buy a lot of litfic based on prices and famous names, and then I don't necessarily read it? Beautiful We Were. I picked this up randomly in the bookstore, and I am not gonna lie, the tiny font is the reason I've just not picked it up, because I just can't. Yeah, I should probably just unhaul it if I don't like the font. When I was talking about this, Patricia Lockwood kind of lost my interest in this as well. I think I need to do an unhaul of my litfic shelf. The Dreaming by André Bagou. I don't have my mini library anymore, so I guess I will put the ones that I'm not really interested in anymore on my Instagram stories, see if anyone wants them. Slum Virgin by Gabriela Gabson Camara. Again, because this is a litfic, I'm gonna put it back for now, because I have so much litfic on my spring TBR, mostly I would say. Here I have some Women's Prize reads, which are read. Then I have Poems by Amalia Rodriguez, which I got for Mary, and I really want to wait until I'm in the right mood. I feel like this is the kind of book I might take to the beach or a place like that. These are actually his book. This is a lot of Kazuo Izuguro, but these are his. Right, and now the moment we've all been waiting for. Classics. Oxford English Library. Am I saying this right? Or just Oxford? No, Oxford World Classics. These names just strip me up. Alright. Evelina by Frances Burney. Four Major Plays by Henrik Ibsen. I have Uncle Tom's Cabin, but I'm not gonna read that one. Indiana by George Sand. The Custom of the Country by Edith Wharton, which I got from Mary, and I will read this for the Buzzwordathon in the summer. Alright, I have two editions of this. The Scarlet Letter, which I will read. Notes from Underground by Dostoevsky. This has a lot of short stories, which again is that part of my own TBR. I wouldn't really put like short story collections on my own TBR because I don't usually read the whole collection in one. Ulysses by James Joyce. Fathers and Sons by Ivan Turgenev. Let's see. We have some Shakespeare. What I've not read is King Lear, A Winter's Tale, Antony and Cleopatra, Twelfth Night, The Tempest, Much Ado About Nothing. And I have something completely different, which is The Call of the Wind and White Fang by Jack London. Right, let's get over to the modern classic. This big collection, of course. I'm not gonna go through every one I have read and I have not read, but I think it's about 50% although that might be generous. This whole stack: Child of Fortune by Yuki Tsushima, The Sundial by Shirley Jackson, Segu by Marise Condé, Chernobyl Prayer by Svetlana Alexievich. And then over here I have a few, I think these are the older ones, which I've all read. Finally, I can just sit down because this is my only shelf that doesn't have doors. So I have 3 more stacks of books. The mini black classic. Let's show. So I have these, of course, which, oh gosh, I don't know how much of those I've read. I think about 30% less than the modern ones. So I have a bunch of George Eliot here. His selected essays, poems and other writings. This was a gift from Sarah. Daniel Deronda by George Eliot. That's actually just it from this stack. Right, and on my lowest 2 shelves I just have books that I have mostly classics that don't really fit a certain edition. So I think I have these alphabetically, or at least I tried. 2 Isabel Allende's that I do still own. I didn't love The House of the Spirits, which is, I think, like, would I say, her masterpiece if I didn't like it, but so I have Eva Luna and Portrait in Sepia. I guess I'll get to at some point, but they're not going on the sofa. This is Nada by Carmen Lafayette, which is a Spanish modern classic. Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. Sally on the Rocks by Winifred Boggs, which is a British modern classic, I believe. Yes, it says British Library Women Writers. Parable of the Sower right here, but Parable of the Talents is somewhere, and that one's definitely going on the sofa because it's been too long since I read Parable of the Sower. I have 2 editions of The Woman in White, but I don't want this edition anymore, so I guess I put that in the on-hold pile. Nights at the Circus by Angela Carter. Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee. The Light Years by Elizabeth Jane Howard. Letters to Milena by Franz Kafka, which I am gonna put on the sofa. The Housekeeper and the Professor. Bright Star by John Keats. Toute Frances by Irene Nemirovsky, which I am gonna put on the sofa because I've been wanting to read this one for a while, like as a high priority read. Gabriel Garcia Marquez's The General in His Labyrinth, and the Chronicles of a Death Foretold. Year of the Monkey by Patti Smith. Territorial Rights by Muriel Spark. Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. I don't think I'll ever read this, but alright. The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. My most anticipated read, Sense and Sensibility and Sea Monsters. And this is Bless Me Ultima by Rudolfo Anaya. Alright, and I have down here, I don't know if I will just lift it up for you. I have this beautiful box set that my dad gave me from Don Quixote. This is the Dutch translation, and I think it's illustrated. I will read this at some point, but like at some point. I think this is it. I'm usually quite an organized person, but apparently I had made a mini priority TBR and these books are still on there. So yes, Parable of the Talents, so high on my priority TBR. The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. I just want to read it now. The House on the Strand by Daphne du Maurier. I forgot something. I told you at the beginning of this video, I have a pile of books. I have 3 shelves downstairs, so let's go downstairs. There was a lot downstairs. So let's start with the few extra classics and let's see if they should go on my priority TBR. So this is my 2nd edition of The Scarlet Letter. David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. The Scarlet Pimpernel. This is going with the classics on the priority TBR. The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins, and this is the edition I'll keep. Alright, and a few non-fiction. These Precious Days by Anne Patchett. Stonewall Reader. It's Not About Burqa. Hood Feminism. Romantic Outlaws. George Eliot, a biography. It means I only got 1 extra book on my priority TBR, so let's have a look at the TBR itself. Alright, so these are, I would say, the literary fiction / historical fiction, which is this little stack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 books. I have 2 romance / feel good, and I have 8 classics. I'm not too mad about this. This is fine. I still have a whole stack of Emma's Prize books, and there are of course new releases that I've pre-ordered. Things like that are still coming in, but I feel like this will be a manageable stack for the rest of 2025. By the end of 2025 this will make me laugh and I will find myself super ridiculous, but I'm excited for the stack. Let me know what you thought of my own TBR, if there were any books that jumped out to you, that you were like, Milena, this needs to be on your priority TBR. What are you talking about? Would love to know that. Leave me a comment down below. And I'll see you very, very soon in another video. Doei!